Welcome to this podcast, Holistic Creators, where we share our unique and universal stories about shaping the future for the 4 Ps: people, planet, purpose, and profit. My name is Swanette. I'm a mental coach and your host of this show. My intention for this show is to inspire you on your path to a holistic future. So welcome. Hello and welcome to my podcast, Holistic Creators. My name is Swanette and I'm your host. Today my guest is Julie Mann. So welcome to my show.
It's really great to be here, Swanette. Thank you so much for asking me.
Yeah, and it's a pleasure for me as well, as I have been on your show already. So now you are on my show, and yeah, I'm totally curious to get to know you a little bit better. And also, of course, my audience is curious to understand who you are, what you're doing. So please, can you introduce yourself and tell us, well, who are you and what are you doing?
Of course. So actually you mentioned curiosity, and that's one of my favorite words. So I have been an actor for over 40 years, and in the past I've worked at the National Theatre. I don't know if any of the people watching have actually been to London, but it's a very prestigious theatre. And I've toured around theatres. I've done some television plays. I've worked for BBC Radio. I'm sure you all know that. And that was amazing. And when I chose to become a mum, and actually I did it very late, I happened to have my daughter Katie actually on my 40th birthday. I thought I was going to get a party, but I had a baby. She was a week late, which was the best gift I have ever had in my life. I decided that I really didn't want to be traveling around and not accessible for her. So I decided to switch from touring and doing all those things, which is actually quite antisocial, to be fair. And if you're in a show, you know, it ends late, and it's a strange but exciting life. So I started doing role play. So I now work for about 4 companies, and I do improvisation. And I remember being at college and absolutely hating improvisation. So improvisation, I'm sure you all know, is kind of making up on the spot. So I'm given a brief, and it's in a training capacity. So often it's training people who might be BBC journalists or non-government organisations or the Foreign Office, and they're required to go into conflict situations. And what they need is people who can recreate the kind of people they might meet in these traumatic situations that they'll be going to. So they need to be trained in kidnap and you know, landmines and safety and all that sort of thing, but also they need to deal with the human contact. So they need to deal with being challenged by emotional stuff, trauma. So that's what I do now. So I work for about 4 companies, and it's all outside, and that's fantastic, and it's close to home, which is why I chose to do it. The other thing that I started to do probably, well, my daughter had just been born, and she's 24 now, and I was doing a voiceover for IKEA. I don't know if you have IKEA where you are, but I used to work for IKEA, and I used to absolutely love it. We always had fun. I love being in the recording studio. I always look forward to it. Probably about sort of 5 days a year. Full-on days. And in this particular occasion, being pregnant with my daughter, I experienced what I realize now was my hormones going completely mad. And I experienced this kind of rush that came over my body. And in that moment, I was rendered speechless. So if you're doing a voiceover, not being able to speak is not really very useful. And it probably only lasted only seconds actually, but it felt like an absolute eternity. And it scared me so much that I had this concern, oh my goodness, I hope that doesn't happen again. And when we have that fear, I'm sure you all know, it can become a self-fulfilling prophecy, and that's indeed what it became. And I used to really worry about work. So I used to worry before it happened, you know, days before it happened, and then I'd go into the recording studio, and even though I'd always come up with the goods, they'd always be happy with what I did, I would have this really rocky start. but it really knocked my confidence, and I found that it affected lots of areas of my life as well. So in the end, I decided to go and see a hypnotherapist, and it was a bit of a last resort, really. And working with her, I changed that behavior, which was absolutely brilliant. And at the end of it, I was so sort of gobsmacked that I'd, been able to shift this, that I thought, wow, if someone can do that for me, what if I could do that for someone else? So I trained then as a hypnotherapist. I then discovered life coaching. And if any of you have ever had any hypnosis, there are all sorts of myths about it. But it's really about following instructions. And if you don't want to follow those instructions, you simply won't. And I thought, even though that's really great and I can help people, I actually like the life coaching approach, because it's about asking great questions, as you well know, Swanette, and people coming up with their own answers. And I really like that. Then I discovered EFT. You do EFT, don't you, Swanette?
I'm trained in that, but I'm not using it very often. But perhaps you can explain a little bit in 2 sentences what EFT is, because I'm sure not everybody knows about this magical tool.
Okay, so it's a very simple technique. It's based on tapping particular points on the face, on the hands, on the chest, under the armpit, and using language. So it's really about shifting patterns. So the thing that it's really important to be aware of is that the brain, the unconscious mind, is in charge. So it's really about offering possible ways of looking at things that the brain can then go, oh, well, that's interesting, and become curious about that and maybe shift that. So it's about tapping specific points, using language, which is very much the language of the client. This is not 2 sentences, is it? But anyway, the language of the client, and then shifting that behavior. And it looks, because it's a very simple technique, and it looks a bit funny, people kind of think, well, how can that work? But actually, it's really, really powerful. So to cut a long story short, I decided to use the combination of EFT, the tapping technique, and life coaching together, because I really wanted to be playful. And in my life, I love having fun. It's really important for me to be playful. And so I stopped doing the hypnosis, and I sell downloads, but actually I started working face-to-face with people who, were shifting things that they were stuck with by using EFT and hypnosis. And then everything was going very, very well. My daughter's growing up. I was able to work from home, spend time with her, see clients, go off and do my acting work as well. And then about 10 years ago, my husband very unexpectedly asked me for a divorce. And at that time, I had absolutely no savings and no pension. And I was kind of mid-50s, approaching 60. And although I absolutely love what I did, I thought, oh my goodness, without a pension, I am in big trouble. So I need to find something else. So I didn't know what I could do. I didn't want to retrain. And anyway, a friend introduced me to a company, and which I never thought I would have anything to do with. But what I realized was that this particular online brand would enable me to work doing the things that I was already doing and loving, just add this in, and over time create the pension that I needed to, have a great life. So yeah, my life kind of turned out in a way that I didn't expect it to, but isn't that the way?
Yeah, so this is so amazing, and I can see that because when I listen to people, often they start at a certain point with a certain education, and then they go into a different area, and it looks like there's one piece of a puzzle and another one piece of a puzzle, and if you look back, you get a picture, yeah, and it is like, wow, never could imagine like ending up where I'm now. But this is life, and if you're curious about being open for offers and what is showing up in your life, and yeah, experience in trying out some things, this is happening. And at the moment, I think a lot of people are in what you said about, you know, being stuck or being in this fear about what is going to happen. And because all the stability is gone, and you know, we are so in a moment of being vulnerable and feeling insecure. And now, okay, you need to improve. And what you said, no, it is about one thing doing this on stage, but this is what we really need as a skill in our life, no? Being,
Yes.
yeah, being also being in the moment to understand what is going on and how can I take another decision from here on and there on.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that, you know, as an actor, people have this kind of impression that actors are really confident people. Often we're not, but we happen to be able to come up with the goods, you know, and kind of escape into this world. And I spent most of my life, and I'm 64 now, spent most of my life really thinking I should be someone else. Like, you know, why couldn't I actually be that character for real? You know, because that's where I felt happy and expressed. But actually, what I've come to realize, thank goodness, is that the best part I could ever play, the best part that any of us can ever play, is ourselves. And that has been such an extraordinary realization, and it's brought me a lot of joy. And that's how come really I began that journey of self-development.
Mm. Yeah, I totally hear you. And if you are in a good mood, it is perhaps easy to play a role that you aren't. Yeah, especially if you're together with friends and family, and you're used to use with one hat. So I'm the nice person, but really down under your skin, it's something like burning, and there's another way you want to express yourself, and this is not allowed to come out. But as soon as you perhaps go on stage and you can be this character and you can really go into that, you can feel, oh, this is something that is really part of me, and now I'm able to express myself differently and to become more vivid, perhaps even that. And so how do you think that on the one hand playing a role and on the other hand becoming authentic can go together?
I think that I don't know, when I watch a film or I watch a production of something, you can tell if someone's acting it. You know, as an actor, I think it's about bringing a part of yourself to that character and developing the character. But also, you can tell when people are acting, and it's the people that draw us in are those people that actually are being that person. And I think that really the joy in life is when we can become happy in our own skin. So now that I can be myself, not only does that have me feel more joyful and more able to deal with you know, the stuff that happens, because stuff happens every day, doesn't it? We get challenged. That's part of being human. But also it means that I can bring more of myself to that role. But I'm very clear about you know, that being myself is the most important thing. And I think that probably, I know it's a big generalization, but I think most of us, we want to be happy in our own skin. You mentioned vulnerability earlier on, and you know, some people see that as a real weakness, but actually that's such a strength to be able to embrace that vulnerability. And you know, there's an expression, strong back, soft front. You know, it's about being able to be with change. And I think that's, you know, the thing that probably most of us are most scared of is that change. You know, who will we be if that happens? I think the thing about COVID, I hate to bring it up, but it's been that, you know, people are suddenly like, well, who am I if I'm not working full time, if I'm not commuting to work? Who am I now? You know, who am I now in my own home? Everything that was familiar is no longer familiar. And but it's been a really amazing time. Lots of amazing things have come out of it for people who are willing to embrace the change and look at, what is it I really want? What is it I really want? And what can I do to be kind to myself today? And what can I do to make myself happier? I think, we are responsible for our own well-being and our own happiness. And I think that it's really important that we take responsibility for that and we find ways to nourish ourselves. And nourishing ourselves can be being around people who they've got our back. They want us to flourish. That's who I choose to be around. Of course, not everyone I meet is like that. Not all of my family are like that. But that's okay. I choose mostly to hang out with people who they see me as bigger than I see myself. And I think that's really, really important.
Yeah, so I absolutely hear also what you said about this time when we went into this pandemic and the roles we normally fulfilled, we were not able to do that anymore. But coming up with the question, who am I in my true identity? If I'm not anymore the whatever CEO of the company because we are closed, or if I'm not the mom anymore because my children left the house and now becoming independent. So and it comes back to what are our roles and who are we in our true identity if we are authentic in ourselves. To work out from there and understanding, okay, what are my needs if I fulfill this? So I absolutely get
our needs, are we? Sorry, we're not our roles. We might be a mother, but we're not just a mother. We are unique individuals, and I think it's about really tapping into what makes us unique, what makes us feel a particular way, and doing more of the things that make us feel good. Of course there are days when we're all challenged, people die and stuff happens and we experience sadness, but we can be happy with being sad. We can, if we embrace all of those feelings and know that that's just part of who we are. I think our feelings are great flags. It flags up our needs, so it's working with that and seeing the beauty in life. It's all around, isn't it? No matter what our situation, there's always something to celebrate and something to be grateful for. And I know when you spoke yesterday on my channel, you talked about the importance of gratitude, and I think that is the key to happiness, being grateful for what we have and for what we don't have, in the everyday.
Yeah, and I can see, coming back to this topic of the pandemic, that a lot of people went into fear and anxiety because life became uncertain. And it became a lot of change. And people that are used to live in routines now are really challenged with that. And it is now also the time to understand about their own capability to improve their life and be like more creative with their life and figure out what are their needs and how they can feel happy. So how can people go deeper into that, and do you have some kind of a tool how they can experience that?
I think it's about stopping, Swanette. Firstly, we need to stop. Actually, I did a Dr. Joe Dispenza course about a week or so ago in intensive, which was fantastic. And I chose to I had my phone for time and alarms, but I didn't use it for a whole week, and it was just bliss. And I think it's about stopping and because we have so many distractions, don't we? Stopping and listening to ourselves and just being curious about, what's going on, dropping down into our body, noticing what's happening, and choosing to start to do the things that make us feel good. You know, we do know what makes us happy, but mostly I think we just don't give ourselves time to tune into that. Maybe there's a long list of things to do which never get done, and you know, we can very much focus on the needs of others, or distracting ourselves with, like I say, social media. You know, the media, that's perpetuating that fear, and you know, that so I think that when we just stop and just listen to ourselves, and it takes practice. It's a practice. We are much more likely to come up with an answer ourselves. But I think also surrounding ourselves with people that do care, you know, that are all about possibility and potential, and that aren't staying stuck. And you know, I know we all like to be in our comfort zone, but actually people who maybe step out and people who challenge us, and I think that's really important, because a life in our comfort zone is, yeah, it's familiar, but it's a bit dull, you know. And I think it's about 95% of our thoughts we think over and over and over again. There's very little new, you know, that we think, unless we challenge that. And you know, it's all unconscious. Our body's operating and doing what we do, you know, on a daily basis. And until we interrupt that pattern and look at perhaps doing things differently. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. I love this tool, setting a timer that gives you a ring, whatever, every 45 minutes, and to give yourself 1 minute to understand what is the situation right now, what is your environment, what are your feelings that are connected to what you're doing or where you are at this moment. Because the feelings are only like a signal for understanding if you are in the right place, if you're surrounded by the right people, if you're doing the right things that makes you happy or not. And you can only figure out if it is this way or not if you are in the moment. Yeah, if you're with your thoughts in the past or in the future, you will not get what is right now. So having this timer, and then feeling, okay, what is it now? Am I happy? Am I in fear? Am I sad? And looking around, why is this happening to me? And or what is happening to me right now? And how can I change into a moment that makes me feel happy and joyful? Because yeah, we are the creator of our life. It is not like many people think life is happening to me, even though sometimes it feels that way. But at the end, we are in this moment. We make the decisions out of the moment. We will have the consequences. And if we create our life differently, there will be a different outcome, of course. Yeah, we will experience something different. And so I think this is really important, to have these moments of stillness. Doesn't need to be a lot of time, but give yourself even every 45 minutes, 1 minute of feeling into the now, into your body, into the emotions, into your surroundings. I think this is great. Yeah.
Oh, I do too. I think it's a brilliant tool, Swanette. And also, I set that when I'm working, because my attention, you know, I'm better if I do like 30-minute stints. So what I choose to do is set my alarm for 30 minutes, completely focus on what I'm doing. And that's the thing, I think, that people talk about multitasking. Actually, we can't multitask because we can only think of one thing at a time. So it's a bit of a fallacy. So if we focus on that thing for 30 minutes, which we can handle, then we can get up, dance, go out for a walk, do something completely different, change our state, change our environment, and then come back. We'll be far more productive, you know, and life will be much more enjoyable, in my opinion. Yeah, I think that's a really great tool.
Yeah, so also about how can I be more creative in my life. And you said, no, as an actor, you have to play a role, but you have to be creative because, yeah, you have to embody this role, so to say. So how can people become more creative and yeah, more playful in their life to experience a different outcome?
I think firstly, a lot of people think that they're not creative, which is not true. You know, you can be creative the way you put your contents in the fridge. You know, it doesn't have to be that it's some artistic or, you know, we're creative in lots and lots of different ways. The way we think is creative. So I think it's about being curious about creativity and what it is. And I think, you know, when we really like something, so say we really like painting, or we really like writing poetry, or we really like cooking, it's about being curious about that. You know, when we're totally absorbed in something that we're enjoying, we're naturally creative. It just happens anyway. So I think it's about maybe trying new things and just seeing whether we like them. And when we like something, as I say, I think we're much more likely to be creative. But it can happen in so many different ways. I think being playful for me is you know, it gives me so much joy. I think that life can be taken so seriously. And of course, there are serious things that happen, but it's always about the way we relate to the thing that's happening. You know, stress is, you know, it's not the world that's stressful, it's the way we relate to the world that's stressful. And so I think it's about being curious about that. Makes sense?
Yeah, so what I sometimes see is that people believe about themselves that they are not creative because in school the teacher said, oh, you can't paint or you can't sing. But creativity can be in such a different way. Like my mother, for example, loved gardening. And she was super creative in decorating the house with flowers and creating the garden and put together some flowers. And this was so creative. And there is no need that we think about the normal arts to express our creativity. Yeah, it can also be like playing with a child or playing with a cat. Like she is coming now in and hopefully it's not messing up here. And yeah, so really understanding like where can be a part of where can I express a part of my own creativity that is within everybody in a field that I perhaps never tried out.
Yes, yeah. I think also that some people just get caught up in the comparison, and I think there's an expression, comparison is a thief of joy. But that's the thing, if we want to sing and we've been told that we, you know, we really can't sing or we're tone deaf, you know, it only matters if someone else is listening, or we think that it, you know, that their opinion is important. But there's no reason why we can't just sing when we're on our own, or, you know. And I think when we get to the point, and it's taken me a very long time, and sometimes I get triggered and I can't do it, you know, where I you know, it's okay what people think, because people, of course there are going to be people that don't like what we do and don't agree with what we do, and that's okay. That's what makes the world an exciting and interesting place. But I think as long as we compare, and as long as we trust other people's opinions above our own, life's not great.
Yeah, and who sets up the scale, like what is good and what is not good. Yeah, so I know of a saying in Germany, is this art or is it trash? Yeah, so there have been artists where they had what is the word, exposition in a museum,
exhibition, yeah.
Exhibition in the museum, and this was like a bathtub with some dirt in, and the cleaning lady cleaned up this thingy, and it was like, oh, she destroyed the art. And
hilarious.
Yeah, so can happen. So it is there is no definition and there's no scale what is art and what is creativity. It's all about what really wants to come out of you.
Absolutely. I think it was Tracy Enning that won a prize for an unmade bed. You know, I mean, I think that's priceless. And I think it's you know, I think if something initiates a conversation, that's really great.
Yeah,
that's all that matters. You know, who cares? You know, if you're hanging around with people who don't like what you do, hang around with them less. Or, you know, we always have a choice. And I think the important thing is to really find ways to begin to trust ourselves. And the other thing is that for those people that have children, well, it's not just whether you've got children, but we are role modeling for our children our behavior. But we're role modeling stuff anyway. And, you know, if we want our children to grow up thinking that they should be a certain way, or that it's not okay for them to take time for themselves, that's a massive problem for the next generation. So I think we have a responsibility to own our life, the good, the bad, the really, really ugly, and find a way to be okay with that and learn from it, because of course we're going to make mistakes. That's the only way we do learn. And some things, you know, may not have turned out in the way that we wanted them to. But if we can learn from those, then, you know, the next time we try something, you know, we'll you know, it'll go differently. And I think that's the thing. You know, there are lots of people who regret stuff that's happened in the past. What a waste of life. What a waste.
Yeah, of course, you can't change what is happening, but you can change the interpretation of what is happening. And
Absolutely.
yeah, so if you go back and think about it, not being in a regret and saying, oh, what would have happened if I had made another decision, but looking back and see, okay, what was the learning experience out of that? What did I had to, what kind of skills did come out of that? Or with what kind of people have I been in contact? So there's always a learning in an experience, and it can be really looking on the experience, a bad experience, and you think, oh, what a mess. But there will be learnings and understanding, okay, what is it? And how can I use this for the future? On the first hand, to not make the fault again. And on the second, really using the skills, for example, becoming more creative in finding solutions.
Yes. And it's who we become, isn't it, Swanette? I think that's the journey. That's my interpretation of why we're, you know, it's who we become. We only become the sort of person that we like more by overcoming the things that were difficult. You know, there are lots of people who sit back, you know, and life just kind of, they get buffeted along by life, like life just kind of happens to them, so they think. But actually, you know, I don't see it like that. And when I choose not to see it like that, and I am responsible, you know, I have a say, and I like that. I don't want life to happen to me. You know, I want to have a say in the way it goes. And of course, we don't have a say in lots of things, but I have a say in how I can be about what happens. And, you know, without those challenges, you know, there's nothing to, there's no change that happens within us. And it's that's exciting, I think.
Yeah, also, like, if you understand that there's always a connection of what is the experience, how you interpret the experience, what comes up as feelings and body reactions. And then, of course, this becomes you as a being. Like, you can see this in people. If they are always angry about what the neighbor is doing and about the politics and whatever, you can see this in their face. They have these wrinkles here, and yeah. And no, you have your wrinkles here. It's like being happy, laughing, yeah? And this is, you can see this in people's faces. What is the most expression they have every day? And therefore, what is how they interpret situations they are in their life, and the feelings, and of course, the body reactions that come with that.
Oh, completely. And the other thing is, of course, that smiling and laughing, it releases endorphins, makes us feel good. We want to do more of it. You know, actually, isn't it take more muscles to frown than it does to smile? So, you know, I mean, I do smile a lot, and I think that a smile can make such a difference. Even a smile, you know, maybe somebody that you come across, somebody you don't even know, you come across in your day, maybe that smile makes a difference between them deciding not to take their life, or, you know, deciding that there is hope, that there is, you know, we just don't know the impact we have. And every single one of us has an impact. Like, you know, a pebble in a pond, the ripples, every single one. So the way we behave affects our family, if we've got family, friends, and, you know, the world, actually. So it may be that we see ourselves as an isolated being, but really, you know, we are connected, and it does make a difference to the, I think, to the energy of the world.
Yeah, absolutely. And I want to jump back a little bit, because you spoke about self-care. And understanding that the way you feel, the way that you experience your life, and you take care of yourself will show up as this ripple effect in the world. And what I sometimes hear is that people who are focused on their self-care are labeled egoistic. And I think it is absolutely important to have the focus on, you have to feel good so that you can help others to feel good. Yeah, remember, if you are in a plane and they're telling you in the case of emergency, you have to take the mask for breathing for yourself and then help the others. Otherwise, you can't help the others. And I think this is a kind of a cultural thing at the moment, that people who are very much the ones that are giving and loving, and but they are the ones also not taking care of themselves, are the ones that are kind of honored, and the ones that say, okay, I have to take care of myself so that then I can take care of others, got this label of, yeah, you're so egoistic. And yeah, what do you think about that?
Well, I think that, you know, that we've all met people, and we'll carry on meeting people who are very arrogant, who kind of, you know, maybe they really go to town on, you know, the way they look, and they kind of boast about that, and they kind of show it off. But the kind of self-care I'm talking about, and there's nothing wrong with showing off, but the kind of care I'm talking about is listening. It is stopping. It is working out what makes us feel good. It's also nourishing our body. You know, you can, and there are people who have a really healthy, you know, they eat healthily and they exercise and they do all the right things, but actually they have thoughts about themselves, about other people, that you know, don't make them feel good. That self-deprecating, you know, it's like, I think that the way your attitude is so important. And you know, for me, when I started my business as a result of my husband asking for a divorce, because it's a health and wellness business, I started to look at nourishing myself in a different way. So starting with the gut. I mean, for those people that don't know, the gut is being called the second brain. And the reason why is because it has such an influence, not only on our physical health, but also our mental health, and also our skin. So you know, it's a really big deal. And nourishing our gut is a really simple thing. Prebiotics, probiotics, digestive enzymes. It's not some big deal. You can, you know, you can buy a sachet of something, and, you know, you can nourish your gut. So I think it's looking at a base level, but also it's about, are you overloading your system with toxins? I'm not talking about being, you know, a martyr and being kind of, you just being really, really good, whatever that means. I'm talking about actually caring enough to not use things that fill your bodies with toxins, because there are a lot of toxins in the environment anyway. And things that you put on your skin, it is absorbed. Things that you put in, it shows up on the skin. Things that you put on the skin, it affects the inside of your body as well. And I think a lot of people don't really realize that. But it's also about caring about the planet as well. That's also, I think, about taking care of yourself, because we're all affected by the planet. And, our water supply and all that. So I started to look, about 10 years ago, I started to look at things in a completely different way. Never thought I would. So glad I have. I feel happier and healthier. And I think actually, I'm told I glow more because of it. But it is those basic things. Some people say, particularly mothers actually, say, oh, I don't have time even to wash my face. What's that about? What do you mean you don't have 5 minutes to wash your face? It's like, if you don't care for yourself on a very basic level, life doesn't really work, I think. Your body's not going to function to its optimum, but also it is going to affect the way you feel. And it's not a luxury taking time for you, like you were talking about, put the mask on yourself first, so then you can, you've got the energy and the resources to take care of others.
Yeah, I think this is so important to get an idea what is a healthy lifestyle, and taking the time, instead of being on social media for hours, take the time to go out, to exercise, to have fresh air, sunlight, healthy food, no junk food. Also, what you said, the products you put on your skin, of course they will go in. We know that. And this is all about understanding what is healthy for my body and what is the toxic way. And I don't speak about that it is not okay to have a glass of wine here and then, but it's also about the joyful moments, of course, and bringing in happiness. But I think it's so important to be aware of that, because it's easy if we are in stress, if we have to think about how we can bring in the next money because our business is not working, or the husband said goodbye, or whatever. You have to focus on other things, but at the same time, how can you have a routine that is so established, like breathing, brushing your teeth, that you have this routine that helps you to even then stay in this routine and have a healthy life. I think it's more about what are you doing during the day, like in the morning. Are you starting with the thoughts you always think, or are you starting with a meditation? Are you doing some exercises, or are you moving from the bed into the sofa? So yeah, okay, I'm oversigning it, but yeah, yeah, but I think this is really important. And what are the habits? And this coming back to your own podcast, what are habits? No? So understanding that.
Habits are, habits, everything we do is a habit, or becomes a habit if we do it, over and over. So the key to being healthy, to being in a great relationship, to, having great sleep, is all about the habits. And I think people underestimate the power, and it takes time to learn a habit. But firstly, we've got to want to. And that's the thing. If you can get to the point where you actually want to make changes, then over time, doing something consistently, you're going to see the change. And I think in the world that we're in, because everything's so fast paced, people want results now. Like that's, if you want something, you can just order it on Amazon, you get it the same day. That's the thing, that we have access to so many things that we can have now, that sometimes we believe that we can just change in a heartbeat. We can decide to change in a heartbeat, but it's going to take consistent activity. There's a brilliant book, one of my favorite books, called The Slight Edge, and it's all about the things that are easy to do and the things that are easy not to do. So something like, for instance, eating a healthy diet, and I'm not, having balance, I think, is really important, and having wine or having some chocolate, having some, it's fine, but as long as, predominantly we are living, in a healthy way and nourishing ourselves, and I think that's what works, because denial doesn't work for anybody. But the slight edge is all about, for instance, so say someone wants to get really fit. They decide, yep, I'm going to change. I'm going to be really fit. I want this buff body. And they start to exercise. They join the gym. And as we all know, people join the gym in January and then a lot of them just peter out by February. So that's the thing. So you go to the gym and, initially everyone's really excited and they're, yes, can't wait. And then, one day, maybe after a week or something, it's raining. Oh, got to drive to the gym. Don't want to do that. So, ultimately, they don't carry it through. I think that's the challenge, is the consistency, doing something every day, small thing every single day, setting up that habit. And, because people can't see the results of going to the gym in a week, they go, oh, well, it doesn't work. But that's the thing. Things work given enough time. And if we only allow, ourselves to, do it over time, that's when we can see massive results happening. It's that compound effect, the power of compound. It's really, really powerful. But it doesn't happen overnight. It takes time. And everything takes time. Loving yourself takes time. And it's a daily practice, isn't it, Swanette?
Yeah, so I think that there are tools that really work quickly, like EFT is a tool where you have a huge transformation or hypnosis within short time. Also, I use an energy healing technique, emotion code or wing wave. So we really have quick changes using these tools. But the other thing is having a habit. And you can be sure if you go into the gym and you go out, you will not be Arnold Schwarzenegger in one session. This takes time to become like that.
Yeah, actually, I love that you mentioned wing wave, because I think it's an absolutely brilliant technique. And I've had shifts, the same day. So you're absolutely right. There are some things that you can shift. But mostly, when it comes to loving yourself, it's not like a one-day wonder.
No, of course not. But I think we have to understand that there are methods that are really quick and do a very fast change in life, like overcoming traumas or anxieties. But that the other thing is to establish a habit or establish habits to create a healthy lifestyle. And a lifestyle where you feel happy and you feel nourished and you flourish in your life. And I think this is really that most people forget about when it comes to stressful moments. And as I'm seeing now the situation, even though the pandemic is over, we are not gone through everything that is going to happen with the economy and now the problems of the high rocking prices. And so there will be more challenges coming. And therefore it is, I think, at the moment so important for people to understand what are my habits that I can establish so that I can go through these moments that will challenge my life, that will perhaps even disrupt my life, and stay healthy and stay in a feeling of, okay, I'm strong enough to go through, and I'm creative to figure out how can I find another solution if the old one is not working anymore. Yeah.
Yes, I agree. And I love that word flourish, Swanette. It's finding ways to flourish in life. That's that's where the gold is, I think. And one of the things that I've certainly had a habit of doing over my life, and that's something that I've been shifting over time, is the habit around being fearful. I grew up in scarcity. We never had enough money. My father used to say things like, what do you think, money grows on trees? I'm sure some people listening might have heard something similar. Rich people are ... all this stuff. So I grew up with that belief that actually there was never enough. And even if you did have the thing, it wouldn't last. And, that's something that's really taken some work to overcome. And I think, when I got to the stage where I noticed that I just would feel stressed around money, and I think I watched The Secret, and I realized that actually what I thought about, what I think about, I bring about. So if I focus on the lack, there will be more of the lack, rather than focusing on gratitude and trusting everything's okay. Because actually, all my life, I've never been out on the streets. I've always been taken care of. Whether I've had the standard of living that, part of me thought I should have, is irrelevant. Actually, there's always been enough. There's always been enough. And I think that when we can just trust, I think it's a big deal, actually, trusting that we can find a solution like you talked about, but also we can trust ourselves to deal with any of the challenges that we face on a daily basis, and that there is enough, life can transform.
Yeah, absolutely. So if people are now curious after listening to our conversation to get in contact with you, where can they find you? Do you have a website, social media, anything that you can share with our audience?
Yes, sure. So on Instagram, I'm Julie Kim Mann, JuliekimMann, and there will be a link tree, and on that link tree there's a free stress buster download, which is a 6-minute meditation, so that people can, if they've got 6 minutes, which hopefully we have way more than 6 minutes, they can kind of get into the gap where they're not thinking about all the things they normally think about, and start to create from there and relax. There's also links to my website and all sorts of other things, and my YouTube channel as well, which of course you appear on, Swanette, which is brilliant. So and I know you're going to put all the links below, aren't you?
Yeah, so yeah, absolutely. I will put all the links in the show notes so that it is easy for everybody to just click and be on your Instagram or Linktree or website. And
and if anyone's got, sorry, Swanette.
Yeah, and of course, please download the meditation and give yourself 6 minutes of self-care and being in the moment.
Yes, and if anybody watching just really wants to ask me a question or reach out, please do. I'd be absolutely delighted to answer anything that I can.
Yeah. Is there anything that I didn't ask you that you would like to share?
I think you asked just about everything, Swanette. I've gone completely blank. I think we're covered. I'm sure I'll think of something when this is over. I think, go out and have fun. Go out and have fun. Find a way today, if you're listening, find a way today to do something to nourish you. And if you do that on a daily basis, you'll feel happy.
Wow. Yeah, thank you so much. So I will go down to the beach and have a swim in the ocean to nourish myself and have some fun after this interview.
Brilliant.
Yeah, thank you so much for being my guest and sharing so much information and inspiring my audience. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
See you soon. Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening or watching my podcast, Holistic Creators. If you want to know more about how I can help and support you, have a look at my website, spiritualchangemaker.com. You can also join my Facebook group, Spiritual Changemakers Community. Stay tuned for the next episode by subscribing to this channel. And you also can check the previous episodes.